Hey guys, today we're going to look at another way to go about solving quadratic equations, and this method is by using square roots. So take a look at the examples I've got on the page here for you. Just kind of look and see, what do you notice about each of these equations? Hopefully as you kind of take a look at them, you'll see that we have an x squared term in each of these equations, but there's no x term. So if you come across an equation that you want to solve, it's quadratic, and it only has the x squared term, no x term, then the best method is going to be to use square roots. Okay, so how does this work? Let's look at the first example. Number 1 says x squared equals 169. And we want to solve for the value of x. So I want to think, what number can I raise to the second power that would equal 169? Well, I know that 13 squared is 169. I also know that negative 13 squared is 169. So I'm going to have two solutions here for x. X is going to be positive and negative 13. That is my solution. Okay, now looking at example 2. Notice here it says x squared equals a negative 49. Is there any number that you can raise to the second power that's going to give you a negative number, like for example, negative 49? Well, as far as we know now, looking just at real numbers, there's no real number x that would give me a negative number, so my answer here will be no solution. Okay, how about number 3? If you look at number 3, you have x squared plus 7 equals 7. If we look back at the previous examples, in each of those, the x squared term was isolated. In this example, the x squared term is not isolated, so we need to do that. We need to subtract 7 from both sides, and I'll end up with x squared equals 0. So now at this point, I could think about what number squared, or what number raised to the second power is 0, and that will give me x equals 0. We only have one solution for this equation. Okay, now jumping down to the final examples here. Example 4 says 16x squared minus 49 equals 0. So again, I want to go ahead and isolate the x squared term. So I'm going to add 49 to both sides. I'll have 16x squared equals a positive 49. One more step in solving here. This one's got a little more work. I'm going to divide by 16. And I'm going to leave this as x squared equals 49 sixteenths. Okay, and the reason I'm actually leaving it there is when I take the square root of both sides, again thinking of kind of the inverse operation of squaring, or raising to the second power would be taking the square root. When I take the square root on the right hand side, the square root of 49 is 7, and the square root of 16 is 4. Okay, for x, the square root of x squared is just x. Those cancel each other out. They're inverse operations. But as always, we'll have two roots. We'll have two solutions, a positive 7/4 and a negative 7/4. So I can just write plus or minus 7/4 as my solution. Okay, in the final example, if you want to, actually you could pause right here and solve it and then push play again to check your answer. I'm going to go ahead and solve 5. For 5, and isolating the x squared, I'm going to subtract 60 from both sides. Then I'll have negative 3x squared equals a negative 60. Then dividing both sides by a negative 3, I get x squared equals positive 20. So when I go about finding my solution for x, I take the square root of both sides. So I'll have x equals the square root of 20. Don't forget that is a positive and a negative square root. Okay, at this point I can actually kind of do two different things. If I wanted to simplify the 20, I can go through and find the factors of 20, and I can rewrite this as plus or minus 2 square roots of 5 as my solution for x. Or if you have a calculator, you could grab a calculator, and we could go ahead and estimate if you type in the square root of 20 in your calculator, or you could also type in 2 square roots of 5. That's going to give you about 4 47/100. So I have two different ways of writing my answer. I can either write this as a simplified radical or as a decimal, and I actually didn't write this in. Don't forget to put plus or minus for each of them. There's two solutions. Remember, that's the place where the quadratic function crosses the x-axis, your zeros. Alright, so that's how you solve quadratic equations with square roots. Good luck, have fun.